Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar brought to you by the USFLN, the United States Fab Lab Network. Today is December 9, 2016. I'm your host and moderator for today's webinar, and I'd like to remind you that this webinar is being recorded. I just hit the record button, and you will receive a link to this recording and the slides as well. Let us move forward on our today's presentation. You can see the agenda for today. Again, my name is Mike Lasecki, and I'm welcoming you to the webinar. Greg, why don't you join us now and tell us a little bit more about the agenda, and then go ahead and introduce your presenters.
Great, thank you, Mike. Excited to have everybody here today. We have some exciting stuff coming up this spring for the United States Fab Lab Network. So I'm going to do just a brief overview because we always have people who aren't that familiar with the United States Fab Lab Network. We'll talk about our planning for our big event. And already I made a typo. I see it's 2017 USFLN Symposium. So we'll plan on that for upcoming in March. We'll give just a brief outline of some of our partners and some exciting things that some of our members are doing. It'll be from myself and Jeff, and we'll have brief time to take a couple of questions. Let me introduce myself again too. My name's Greg Herker. I'm Fab Lab Manager at Gateway Technical College, which is, I know that's not very descriptive. People always ask me where Gateway is. We're in Wisconsin, and it is currently snowing right now out the window, I see. I've had a Fab Lab here at Gateway for 3 years now. Been involved with the United States Fab Lab Network for that amount of time as well, really because there wasn't a lot of information out there on and support on how do you start. There's so much going on. So that's why the United States Fab Lab Network has been a big help for me. And we have two other very capable people who are going to be participating with us today. So I'll let Luke and Jeff introduce themselves. Luke, why don't you go first?
Okay, hi guys, my name is Luke Jumper, Coordinator of Architectural Technology, Industrial Technology, CAD Drafting at Lewis and Clark Community College, and I'm the Director of our the St. Louis Confluence Fab Lab here at Lewis and Clark Community College. We'll be hosting the 2017 Symposium, and hopefully see a fair number of you guys there. Jeff, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. My name is Jeffrey Berner. I am the Program Director at Northampton Community College Fab Lab. That is in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I have been here for 6 years, and our Fab Lab has been for 8. So I hope to see a lot of you at the symposium. It gets better every year. I've been going since probably this will be my 4th. So I'm telling you that it just gets better and better. So anyway, glad to be here.
All right, this is Greg again. I'm going to talk briefly just about United States Fab Lab Network, just as a general overview of what our organization is. And we've just, we're entering our 2nd year as a actual 501c3. In the past year, we spent a lot of time getting all of the legal entities involved so we could really step up and start to deliver more, offer more services. We are, I guess, fortunately or unfortunately, we are an all-volunteer organization right now. We don't have any paid staff. We keep our expenses extremely low. Our symposium is very affordable. We really just are people who work to support and further Fab Labs and maker spaces around the country. I brought up, if you make sure you go check out our website. It's usfln.org. There is our mission statement and vision and things there. But what you'll find we focus are in 3 main areas. Our Fab Labs, the majority of our members tend to be educational institutions, but not exclusively. So our Fab Labs tend to have work in, of course, heavily in academics. A lot of them either academics at their institutions, and a lot of them do, be it a K-12 school or a post-secondary school. And then they also do community outreach for other organizations, groups. A lot of I know our post-secondary schools will do a lot of outreach with high schools and middle schools, offering programs and bringing people in the Fab Lab, just trying to encourage the making experience. We also, a lot of our labs, and Jeff will focus on this a little bit later, are heavily involved either in business and supporting businesses, supporting inventors, supporting entrepreneurs, and those skills and helping better their community. And then we again talk about the community outreach, as in aligned with the Fab Charter. Our Fab Labs do a lot of community outreach. We try to offer programs and access to the community so people can get involved in making, in learning, and developing new skills and get access to digital fabrication. So, cover quickly, what are the priorities for the United States Fab Lab Network? Like I mentioned, we are a volunteer organization. We want to keep growing and further our infrastructure. We're doing a lot of that. We've been updating our website, trying to get better communication tools. Our key event is we put on the symposium, which Luke's going to talk about. But what our members have consistently talked about, and it's because we've all been there and done that, is try to develop information, support materials, educational materials, programming, curriculum. Working together on collaborative projects is often highly valued. I've done a few of those at my lab, and I know some of our other speakers have done that, and it's been a very valuable experience, because there isn't, I guess, not a Fab Lab 101 manual or book that's right for everybody. So we're trying to work to further that. We'll talk about some of our partners later who do help us in developing that. But what we are trying to be is just a resource for a Fab Lab and maker spaces so they can grow and really deliver on the promise of what Fab Labs and maker spaces can be. And what, we of course, we're kind of grown out of the Fab Foundation and the MIT Charter, so we ask our member labs to follow that. You can find that really is a spirit of openness and innovation, and you can go to the Fab Foundation website and learn more about that, but just that we work together and support each other. And we hope you'd want to join us. And one thing, when we talk about joining us, make sure all you need to join us is come see us at our symposium. By attending, that covers your membership. We just want to see you and network with you. And if you're interested, especially in getting started up and moving forward, and I can't think of a faster way to network and actually develop a dialogue with people that can help you faster than coming to one of our symposiums. That's what happened at the first one I went to. I instantly made a lot of connections, and you're going to find this community is willing to talk to you, willing to help you, and just willing to help you where you have challenges and struggles. One thing we really need as we're developing as a volunteer organization is we have some committees, and so we're always recruiting because it's a volunteer organization. And some of the key areas we cover are membership communications, education, entrepreneurship, and sustainability. So as we work together, especially I'd ask you to think about this if you're thinking of coming to see us at Symposium 2017. Think about how you can contribute, how you can volunteer, because these are the committees then that put together materials that we disseminate to members. So If you're interested in that, I really encourage you to help us out. We want as many voices as possible along that. We do have structure now, and one thing we're going to be in the spring, we'll be having some new officer elections. I'm currently the board chair and treasurer. Our vice chair is open, so we'll be putting together a new vice chair. Jeff is our secretary, and then we have some board members who give us some direction from some of our various partner organizations. And now, the most exciting thing that we're going to talk about today, I'm going to turn it over to Luke, who's going to kind of give us a brief overview on some of the things that will be happening at Symposium 2017.
Thanks, Greg. Before I get started, I definitely want to say that I agree with everything that Greg said. It is a wonderful community that you should get more involved in, and the more involvement we get, the better it gets. So my primary purpose is to talk about the symposium. It will be held at Lewis and Clark Community College at our St. Louis Confluence Fab Lab. That is in Edwardsville, Illinois. That is actually just to the east of St. Louis. You'll see that there's an option to register, so you can go ahead and register even during this webinar or just afterwards. I'm sure Mike will make sure that everybody, and Greg will make sure that everybody gets that information. There we go. Okay. So I'll tell you a little bit about the lab first. I agree with Jeff and Greg that this is a great way. The symposium is a great way if you are thinking about opening a fab lab, if you have opened one but you want to know what to do next and you're in the beginning stages of it, or even if you have an established fab lab and you want to move it forward. The symposium is a great way because there's no point in reinventing the wheel when you can talk to a bunch of people who've been there, done that. And that's a great way to move forward. So you'll see a link there. You can go look at our website for our Fab Lab, which is constantly improving. There's always things that you want to be better. Here's an idea of where it's at. So the blue one is ours, Lewis and Clark Fab Lab right there, the St. Louis Confluence Fab Lab. We are located just outside of St. Louis on the Illinois side. You'll see some of the larger Fab Labs around us, the University of Illinois one, the Chicago one up there, and then the Kansas City Fab Lab. Here's a kind of a floor plan of how our Fab Lab was laid out. When we first initially did this, we actually had the architecture students use this as a design project. So some of you that are thinking about how to get administrative buy-in, that's a great way to do it. Engage the students as a project, and you end up getting some great imagery that helps with the administration because then they can picture it. And there's even better stuff we can do now, but this is kind of the layout of our lab. You'll see that there's design and prototyping, wood and plastic, CNC metalworking, welding, electronics, finishing, and assembly. I'll walk through some of the capabilities of those areas. In the design and prototyping area, we have a full CAD/CAM suite on all the computers, dual screen monitors, 24-inch monitors, and scanners as well, 3D scanners as well. And it's a great space, as some of you guys will see when you come to the symposium, for learning about different software things. So the presenter can stand up front. The entire wall is a dry erase wall, so you can talk about how to use the software, how to work through a design, how to prototype something. It's just a great collaborative space to see what you're trying to accomplish and to work together. The space right next to it, to the left, is where we call our clean manufacturing, and that's got our 3D printers, our laser cutter, our vinyl cutter, things like that. So it's all the stuff you don't want to get dust in. You'll see wood, plastic there, so that's mainly woodworking tools. You get a lot of really good woodworking tools there. I'm not going to go through all of them. Along the top left is our CNC area, and so we got a CNC router, 2 mills, a CNC lathe, and a CNC plasma. We also got an EDM machine. Welding's in that back corner, logically, because you don't want people to get hit by flash burn. But you look at the welding at MIG, TIG, stick arc, flux core, oxyacetylene, spot welding. And then the metalworking area, which could always also be plastic, and you got all your traditional tools like mills and lathes and grinders and a press. Electronics area includes all the things you would need to do soldering of guitars. We have Been a part of the guitar building program through the National Science Foundation, and it's been wonderful. It's been one of the reasons that we have this lab, which is great. And then right behind that would be finishing, a very large spray booth, and a sander or a buffer, and then a sandblast cabinet, and water transfer printing. And then of course the assembly area right there. You'll see the big windows on the south side of this plan. Those are onto a hallway. Across from that is our sloped classroom. So this is where we'll actually hold a lot of our meetings and a lot of our presentations during the symposium. Will be the large sloped classroom, and then over to the right of this plan, which is to the west, you would actually end up having the very large space where we'll do most of our big pieces of the event. And of course, this is part of a classroom building where we have a lot of different breakout areas. Real quick, here's just some of the images from inside the lab. This is during our grand opening on the top right there, and you can see that projector is the kind that you can interact with. And we have it's one of our board members for the college. His wife is interacting with the gears on there and actually turning the gears, and she just is enthralled with that, which is pretty similar to what a lot of people that come in and utilize it are happy with. You can see we're doing some guitar work there on the lower left. And then of course we use the Connect system to do 3D scanning. We also have another higher resolution scanner, but that ends up working pretty well for the things we want to accomplish. There's one of the students welding who has shorts on, shouldn't have shorts on. Anyway, and then you'll see some of the CNC machines there as well. And then there's our clean manufacturing, and then a shot of kind of the entry area where we have a lot of our information. Normally that TV has the calendar of events and things like that scrolling on it. So one of the things I do want to remind you about as far as the symposium, it is Stairway to Making. The goal of this symposium, we've had several lately that have had different priorities, and this one we really want to focus on operations, programming, staff, technical training, and best practices. So the operations, what are the things that are necessary to run a lab? Sometimes we talk about the high ideas and don't get as much into the weeds and the details, and so that's what we really want to start to get into in this symposium. Also programming, what should you offer? What should a Fab Lab get into, and how will that help you progress? Staff technical training is one that seems to fall by the wayside. We have a lot of tools in these labs, and it's difficult to understand how to use all of them all the time. So we really want to get into that. And then best practices, like I mentioned before, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. With all the knowledge and the abilities and the experience that we have with the people that are going to be at this symposium, they can help you avoid some of the pitfalls and maybe have you progress further faster because of their knowledge. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Greg, and I hope to see all of you there in March.
All right, thank you, Luke. Yeah, I think it's you described it perfectly when you said we're going to get into the weeds, or as we say, into the details of how do we do these things, because oftentimes you hear about the theory, or this would be great, but now how do I really implement and do this? And on the personal level, I think that's something we're going to try to focus in. So when you attend, there's going to be a variety of sessions from people all over the country talking about their expertise and delivering training. I want to talk about some of the partners that we have, and these partners will be at the symposium. And I'll tell you, they really have gotten interested and wanted to participate with us because their membership has a strong interest in Fab Labs. National Coalition of Advanced Technology Centers is primarily post-secondary schools that have advanced training centers, and they have a network and an organization. I presented this fall on Fab Labs at their conference. Go check them out at ncatc.org, but they have strong interest in Fab Labs from their members, and they will be at St. Louis represented, so make sure you check them out. The Technology and Engineering Educators Association, of course, they have a very strong interest. We're getting more and more especially high school, even middle school fab labs and maker spaces coming online. Well, those educators are interested in programming, training. How do I set up a program? How do I train my instructors? They have a lot of tech ed teachers around the country who have some experience with some of the equipment, tools, and software, but not everything, and so they need some help. So they've been looking to us to help facilitate and help grow and make their members' Fab Labs successful. NC3, National Coalition of Certification Centers, has been a partner that will be highlighted at the symposium. And what they do is they develop actual vendor curriculum. And when I say curriculum, I mean it's a package. They run a train the trainer model. The first one they rolled out was 3D printing, and we delivered that this summer and this fall. We have more coming up in the spring, and there'll be another one this summer where a teacher actually gets a certification on a Dremel 3D printer, and then a train the trainer model where they can deliver that training to students who then get certified by the vendor that they are competent to operate, run the equipment, and they're looking to do this for a variety of Fab Lab equipment. Extremely affordable training, very well thought out, includes quizzes, tests, everything you need to do to run it in a classroom, which I think makes it really unique. It's extremely robust. It is the full lesson plan, which is what we find is needed by many in our education community. They need a really good, strong curriculum plan, and NC3 is experts in developing that. Again, we're proud to have Dassault Systems and SolidWorks. I'm excited. They got some new announcements coming out on some new products that will be coming out, and that'll be at SolidWorks World. I met with them a week ago at the ACT conference in Las Vegas, so they have a lot of new stuff coming out. They run a program. If you're a United States Fab Lab Network member, you can get educational licenses for your Fab Lab at no charge to you. So they're really trying to promote 3D CAD design. So, I mean, that's a huge value for people who run a Fab Lab, and we're working with them. They got some new products coming out, and I would describe them as being kind of more of an entry-level starter CAD design project software. So I'm very excited to hear more about that, and that should be the announcement coming in this spring at SolidWorks World. We also partner with a program called Maker Girl. They were a big hit at last year's symposium, and I know they came out and they did a summer road show where they toured several of our members, and I know I've talked to them in the past 2 weeks, and they are planning to do another summer road tour. So if you want the Maker Girls on your campus, I would suggest get to St. Louis. What the Maker Girl program is, and this is something we're working on, making it scalable so they can roll it. You can do this at your campus. In a nutshell, what it is it's a program designed for young girls, 9, 10, 11-year-old young ladies. They do a program in 3D design and 3D printing, and they're looking to add more activities and projects to it. It's a girls-only lesson plan, and then what we typically do, if possible, then we have speakers from who are their female engineers or engineering students to tell them what they studied, to mentor them, to get them excited about they can do it. So it's fun projects, gets them interested, focuses a lot on the art aspect, and gets them making something. And then they track this. We've had great success with it. We run it here at my campus. I get girls who get into it, keep coming back again and again, and then they actually have their parents want to come bring them to open lab times just so they can work on projects. So it's been very successful for us. The goal will be at Symposium, have programs that you can roll out so your school can start running the Make or Grow program. So check them out at their website. We mentioned an important part. A lot of Fab Labs are into entrepreneurship. I want to hand this off here to Jeff. Jeff, NACCE has been really one of the Fab Lab Network's strongest partners. Their membership is highly interested in Fab Labs, and Jeff Berner from Northampton has been running some programming along with NACCE. So I'm going to let Jeff talk about NACCE and talk about what entrepreneurship and Fab Labs mean. Take it away, Jeff.
Okay. Thank you very much, Greg. So far, Luke, Greg, everything. I get really excited when I hear, everybody else sort of talking about their aspect of the Fab Lab and how it's working into their curriculums and into their colleges. Everybody's going at it from a different direction. That's why I think it's really important that you get involved in some of these organizations, especially the US Fab Lab Network, because especially if you're just starting out or you're getting some interesting things going on in your campuses that you're not quite sure of how to get the Fab Lab to be its most productive. It's a good place to be. I've learned so much over the last few years and made some really good friends. But the National Association of Community Colleges and Entrepreneurship is a special organization. It concentrates pretty much on the community college. It creates economic vitality through entrepreneurship. Its mission is to create a community college culture that fosters economic vitality through entrepreneurship. So it's working in two different directions. It's working through certainly the Fab Lab and the entrepreneurship curriculums and so forth, but it's also trying to get the presidents on board. And if you have a president who is interested or a little bit entrepreneurial, even if it's not more importantly, get your president to sign the President's Pledge for the National Association of Community College and Entrepreneurship. Because there's some things that can be done on a regular basis in the administration. So if you get your administration on board, you're going to find it, I think, a lot easier to bring entrepreneurship into the Fab Lab and also manage the curriculum aspect, which is one of the things that's most difficult for us right now is as we are growing to the extent that we are, to manage the curriculum aspect for credit versus non-credit. One thing I'll say about our Fab Lab real quickly is we have been totally community-based. So with 26 volunteer instructors coming from entrepreneurship and industry, and then close to 80 to 90 courses that we give in everything from woodworking all the way to robotics. Now that we're growing, the college is really trying to step up their credit aspects into our program. We'll talk about that a little bit later. NACCE is a perfect partner to work that all out. So they have a national meeting. Their national meeting is coming up in October of next year. It's going to be in Tampa, Florida. We'd recommend that you look into that, go onto their website and register early for that. Probably one of the best entrepreneurship programs that or symposiums or conferences I've ever been to was in Sacramento this past October. During that time, I took a facilitator training course in what's called Ice House. Those of you who are familiar with Ice House, or if you're not, see if you can't get familiar with it. It's a very robust, very complete curriculum for student success. They have an academic curriculum, and they also have a business curriculum in order to just teach the entrepreneurial mindset. Certainly starting a business is entrepreneurial, and learning how to start a business and the nuts and bolts of it, but entrepreneurism is not always about starting a business. And that's where I think we can really do a lot in our Fab Labs to promote experiential learning, problem-based learning. And the Ice House, I've really gotten a good response from our college to go ahead and get that facilitator training into the curriculums across the college. And I think by doing that and doing it aggressively as a Fab Lab manager or director, you're going to be able to direct your Fab Lab a lot more without being directed for you. And I think that's one of the lessons that I've learned, is that you really have to take an aggressive approach toward that. See if you can't get the other curriculum partners in the college to also implement, things that the Fab Lab has to offer as far as entrepreneurship goes. So, having said that, I'm a big proponent of NACCE. They have great leadership in Becky Corbin, who's on our board, by the way. She'll probably be at the symposium. So, from what I heard, she's planning on coming. So that's NACCE, and that's in a nutshell. If you have any questions, go on their website. If you have any other, questions about what my experience has been with Ice House, certainly get in touch with me. So, take it back to you, Greg. So, thank you.
Well, I had one more thing I was going to let you talk about there, Jeff.
Go ahead.
I had the next slide. I wanted you to talk about your Nation of Makers.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Just give us a quick update, because that was exciting.
That was exciting, and I think everybody needs to also know that there's so much going on around us as far as making goes. When I started the Fab Lab really growing here 6 years ago, honestly, I had no idea that this was going to be an economic movement that is just even recognized by the United Nations and countries all over the world. So the Nation of Makers started by President Obama. On August 24th, he invited two established managers from makers, spaces, and Fab Labs from each state. So there were a little over 100 people at this meeting on August 24th in the White House. And, just being there alone was awe-inspiring. But take away, all of that and so forth, it's the people that I met there, the other people who were doing the same thing I was, and so absolutely passionate about the act of making, about the act of sharing, about the act of, putting these kind of things into a place where other people can come and join in. I was just enthralled with it. So it was a one-day meeting, and then there's a lot of things that have happened afterwards too. So there's a Nation of Makers association that you can now join. You can go onto their website and you can find ways that you can get involved and stay up to date with what the government's doing. And at the grassroots level, I mean, they realize that this is going to create long range. This is going to create jobs and perhaps, the best of innovation. And our country needs it badly. And this is where it's coming from. And I think that to their credit, they're doing the best they can to take some of the red tape away from some of the funding programs that they have. I met personally with the director of the U.S. Patent Office. It was just a wonderful thing, and they are really trying to break down a lot of the barriers to innovation and to people getting products out on the market and getting funding for our maker spaces. So, if you can go to your grant writing people at your college and ask them to get a little bit more familiar with it, give them some information on some channels. The Nation of Makers website has some of that on there. I hope to give you more information come March when we have the symposium. I can get some more information out there if we can do a small talk on it. So this was a very exciting time. It was something that I probably won't happen again. I don't know if they're going to have that meeting again, because now they've kind of split it up into various sectors geographically in the country. But you can get involved and you can join those individual geographic locations for the Nation of Makers. The other thing that I'm just going to say in conjunction with this in your Fab Labs, if you get your students involved in making something really spectacular, like a robot or something that you think would be worthy, take a look at the maker, like the New York City event that's for makers. It's also, there's one in San Francisco, and see if you can get joining some of those things where you can show off some of the work and see if you can get some feedback on that. It's a lot of fun when you go to the maker space movements that are available out there. Just get people out there with your stuff, and it gives everybody a lot of impetus to keep on going, especially when you get feedback. So Anyway, that's all about the Nation of Makers, and I appreciate it, Greg. So back to you.
All right, and I was going to let you you told me about some unique stuff that was going on in development of your Fab Lab, and I think maybe if we talked about developing some neat training for Symposium 2017, something like, you guys do some really neat stuff in like ukulele building. I mean, I've heard of other guitar building workshops, but you do, the stringed instruments and stuff, and you're going to bring some of that expertise to our symposium. So why don't I give you 30 seconds to promo that kind of activity, because I was excited about that. I know somebody from our staff is going to take that course.
Good. Well, yeah, 30 seconds. Let's see. I initially put guitars in, I think pretty much the way Luke did, except I didn't do it through the National Science Foundation, but I put it in about 4 or 5 years ago to boost the awareness of the Fab Lab and try to get people here, and it took off like a rocket. I introduced flat top guitars, and I introduced ukuleles and arch top guitars, and now we have a certification, full-fledged luthier certification, and a full-fledged luthier lab. I mean, what you're looking at there is just a architectural rendering of our new entrepreneurship center, which is going to start construction in May. And if you look really closely way in the back over that one guy's head on the right-hand side, you'll see Luthier Lab. So we do have one of the few full-fledged luthier schools now attached to the Fab Lab, and it brings so many people to the lab. What I'm going to do out in the symposium is I'm going to, do the smallest instrument that we build, which is the ukulele, and I hope I can just show you how easy it is to put that into your course structure. It doesn't take much space. But what it does demographically is it brings young people in, mothers, daughters, fathers, sons, you name it, a family affair. It can also be done in the high schools, and everybody, from all ages and walks of life just love to build this little instrument. So it's not a hard thing to do, and I hope to teach you how to do that. So I went way over the 30 seconds. Sorry.
That's all right, Jeff. I was excited hearing about it, and these are the kind of programs that, Fab Labs and maker spaces across the country want to hear about and learn about. And if they come to the symposium, they're going to get a chance to sit down, meet you, talk to you, and go through a program on such a thing. Mike, I think that's all the information we have for right now. We like to, keep these manageable for everybody's time. Is there anything else we need to address right away today?
There is, Greg. We've got several questions, and I'd like to address the first one to you, and then I have a second question that I'm going to ask Luke to respond to. So the first one is about money, right? So if you're starting up a Fab Lab, I know you folks always get this question, but where do you find the funds, not only for the equipment, but for personnel and things like that? Do you have any perfect suggestions for somebody? Where do you look for money?
There's money out there now, and it's actually becoming more available. There's more and more grants that I'm seeing coming available for Fab Labs, especially if you are designating a Fab Lab makerspace. For one, here in Wisconsin, the state came out, and in the past 2 years, I believe they're awarding 25 different grants out to 25 schools for Fab Lab money. And I know there's other organizations that are doing that. So there's grants available. There's also, you'll find a lot of our Fab Labs work closely with local businesses. Local businesses, especially if you have manufacturers in the area, and which we do here in Wisconsin, they want to help out. They want to help develop a workforce that is interested in making, that is interested in engineering, interested in design, and they know now they have to be part of the solution. And they are often willing to help and support. Maybe it's donated equipment, software, computers, or direct funding. There also can be a good source of training And then a lot of our schools, we work, there's different workshops, academic things you can do. Typically, we will have a program on sustainability and startup at the symposium. That is always a big topic. But there's a lot of ways to fund, and I may get myself in trouble for saying this, but the schools have money. They have money to do this. We're not talking about a huge outlay. If you could dedicate $50,000 to $100,000, you can get a really good, well-stocked Fab Lab. And I had one school, I will tell you, area high school, say to me, well, that was a lot of money for them. And I just turned around and told the guy, because I knew the district, and I said, you just spent $1 million on AstroTurf for a football field. You think we could come up with a little bit of budget for a Fab Lab?
I think you are getting yourself in trouble here, Greg. You're holding up sports against Fab Labs.
Well, then I asked him, so how many players do you have in the NFL? And how many are going to school to be an engineer in advanced manufacturing? So it's doable. It's very doable.
Sure.
And but yes, you have to be creative sometimes. And the unique thing about this too, I've seen some Fab Labs, you don't have to start off with what Luke has. When you talk to Luke Jumper, and Luke, you can chime in, you didn't have that whole beautiful space day one. It was a work in progress. I see a lot of Fab Labs, you start off with what you can do and focus on that, get good at that, and then as you have success, you keep expanding. Luke, do you want to maybe comment on that?
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. You can start where you can and then move forward. And one of the best ways to convince, in my opinion, administration that you have a worthy goal to fund is to start with whatever you have. Do something really interesting that helps them market the school and makes them look good, and then they end up wanting to help fund more of your stuff because you are an asset to them. That's a great way to start. Also, as far as the staffing, Jeff has done an excellent job, and I took some cues from Jeff as far as how to get people to come in and help teach some things by offering them, say, okay, look, you get a free membership, or you get a key to the place, and you can come in and do your work. And maybe Jeff wants to talk more about that, but I took cues from him on how to do that and how to not have to pay for staff.
Let's turn to Jeff on that, because people wonder, if you got money to start up, how do you continue? How do you sustain the personnel costs? Go ahead, Jeff.
I don't know, because, I'm not in every Fab Lab around the country. I don't know how unique ours is, but I got a feeling that it is unique. And in the way that Lucas just said, I think he's on the right track. There are entrepreneurs out there, extremely talented people who want to share, but they want to have a place where they can also benefit, and that's entrepreneurial. So if you give them something to hang their hat on, so that this becomes their place where they can come in and just work on cool stuff and just sit around and talk and just laugh and have a good time with like-minded people, you've got to give them that. And in return, what you get is they have to teach courses. They have to spend time one-on-one. If there's someone that comes in that wants to know about 3D printing, our 3D printing instructor has to come in, and for a cost, and they get paid for this, they come in and they have to do that, and that's the trade-off. So with 26 extremely talented guys from robotics all the way to woodworking, that's been a successful model. It might not be possible for everybody to do it. I'm not really sure, what the situation is in a lot of colleges, but we've managed to do it. The other thing that Luke said that is really important is if you can affect your community by giving the community, something to talk about, that this is a great place for anybody to come in and build almost anything, and you can really jazz that up, your college will take note. Believe me, it's extremely important that the college has good PR and has a good image in the community. And that's about 3 years ago, when the board came through here and realized that there was something of value here, they started to fund us. In the beginning, I was scraping the bottom of the barrel for anybody to give me a piece of equipment. And they gave me 2 little rooms to start out with. So you start out with what you've got, exactly right, Luke. and then work like crazy to get your college to notice you. And they got to do that, I think, mostly through PR and through goodwill in the community.
Those are some great points, Jeff. Let me, before we proceed, give a shout out to our newest Arizona Fab Lab. Just opening in October was the Fab Lab Makerspace at Eastern Arizona College. Our colleagues there, they did some construction, pushed out a side of the building, created a very attractive space, and they're getting a lot of attention. They had the president come to opening day, and instead of cutting a ribbon, he cut a piece of steel with a welder, and I thought that was a pretty cool way of opening the Fab Lab. So shout out to Eastern Arizona College. I'm going to turn now to a question back to you, Luke, and it's about welding again, because you mentioned you've got this welding gear in there, you just don't want anybody touching it. So that begs a whole series of questions. For example, before you allow someone to pick up a welder and strike an arc, do you have them undergo some training, or at least some safety training, or how do you let them use the equipment? It's probably a pretty big question, but just give us a short answer there.
Well, a quick correction. I want them touching it. I want them touching it a lot. I want them learning how to use those tools, and I want them making all kinds of really cool stuff that I never knew existed. I do want them to touch it. However, I don't want them to hurt themselves or damage the equipment. So everybody who comes into our Fab Lab has to go through the safety. Every single person that walks through the door has to go through the safety. And we have two levels. We have one that's outside of that manufacturing, what we call manufacturing lab, and one level of safety that's inside of there. And actually, from a lethal standpoint, the welders are probably not the biggest problem. There's other machines that could do a lot more damage, I think. But what we end up doing is we have all the safety stuff, which is just going to teach them how not to kill themselves, how not to hurt my machine, which is pretty important. But then the next thing is we have some training. So we've done some videos, and we're working on more videos of, okay, they watch the video, here's how you go through and operate this machine, here's how you change the settings, here's how you do all this. And then above that, we have classes that say, okay, for the next 4 weeks, you're going to attend once or twice a week. And then we're going to walk you through how to MIG weld. You won't be an expert, but we'll walk you through how to MIG weld, or how to TIG weld, or how to do these different things. That they pay for those classes. So you get a membership to the Fab Lab, and then you have to pay for those classes if you're a community member. So kind of on the Jeff model side, right? This is the community side. And then they pay, $50, $60, whatever it happens to be, for those classes, and they learn how to use those tools. On the school side, the educational side, if it's part of a class, that training is built into the class depending on what they're doing. So for example, the guitar building class, in the first 2 weeks, we do talk about, okay, and we run them through a test. Okay, here's how you use a table saw. Here's how you use a bandsaw. Here's how you use this. And we walk them through and make sure that they're competent with those. And then we have, of course, because it is an educational thing, the umbrella of the insurance for the school covers the Fab Lab as well. And we did have a lot of talks about that when we first started it, but it's worked out pretty well so far.
Well, good. Thanks very much for the help on that. Greg, there's been a bunch of chat back and forth, people exchanging links in the chat window, so we encourage people to take a look at that. This is exactly the way Fab Labs work, right? You call people up and they send you stuff, and it's a great community. I'll mention one thing to Elizabeth. She mentioned the Fab Lab at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. I grew up on the south side of Chicago and loved to go to that museum and get on the submarine, and she can tell you about that some other time. So thanks, Elizabeth, for that. Greg, I think we're in good shape here. Let me click. Do we have a closing slide? Let me click forward here. Yep, there's the thank you. There's the link to the symposium. Greg, any closing thoughts as we wrap up for today? Oh, there's a question for you. Is there a rough agenda for the symposium? Maybe you can address that, Greg.
Yeah, we will be posting a rough agenda. As Luke mentioned, our theme is Stairway to Making, and it's going to be heavily on the detailed stuff. So typically we will have sessions on sustainability, startup, but there's going to be some operations, various software, various tools, various technical training, like I said, the Maker Girl program. So right now Somebody asked if they were interested in presenting. I put my email out there, or respond to us. Let me know. We are putting together that schedule right now. So we're planning on the days. We don't have the full schedule of who's doing what lined out, but we'll have that posted shortly. Keep in touch with the website, and we'll send out an announcement. And everybody on here will have your email list, so you will get our email blast as we update people. And so as things are added, I'll send out a note to our email list to get everybody going on that.
Good, thank you. I have a question, one more for Luke. Luke, I don't suppose you had anything to do with the title of this, Stairways to Making, with regards to your guitar thing, that's one of my favorite guitar pieces. Do you have anything to do with that?
Believe me, I actually did not. That came from one of our other members, but hey, it's apt, it works. It is definitely a process, so like it fits, and maybe that'll be our theme music.
Yeah. Hey, Luke, thank you for joining. Jeff, one last question for you. I am so jealous about your visit to the White House. It must have been really cool.
It really was, and when I received the letter on the email from Andrew Coy, one of the people at the Department of Technology Policy for the President, I thought it was a joke. I mean, I think a lot of people did when I talked to them, and I thought, this can't be. So I read through it. I said, well, I'll send this back with my information, and then a week later, I got the confirmation that I was going to be going to the White House and when I should go and how I should manage security, which was really crazy. But when I got there, you just have to be in awe of, it just puts you into a very, very state of mind where you just have a lot of pride in your country when you look at everything's going on there and the people that are so committed. So I was very impressed. So thank you. Thank you for asking.
That's cool. You to see, Jeff goes home for dinner that evening. Oh, by the way, I got a letter from the White House today. Sort of cool. Anyhow, I think it's great. Everyone, thank you for joining today. Fab Labs they're so much fun. They're so engaging, and you hear that from our speakers today. You can hear the passion as they talk about how they've made these things happen, and as a way of engaging students in our technology programs, I think they're without parallel. So that wraps up officially our webinar for today. We're getting ready to shut down the system. Don't hesitate to contact any of our presenters. They will respond to you. One of the chat questions came up just now saying, is there an invitation? Because sometimes teachers and faculty, they need like an invitation letter so they can process travel and things like that. I bet you Greg can help out with things like that. So thanks everybody. Greg, it's always a pleasure working with you guys. And Jeff and Luke, thanks for joining. Everyone, let's head out to Luke's area in the spring and talk about Fab Labs. That officially ends our webinar today. Goodbye, everybody.